Welcome everyone, thank you for coming. We've entitled this Kundalini and Non-Duality. So a little bit more novelty than the usual spiel. So I'll start by talking about each one separately and maybe then how they interconnect or if they interconnect. So non-duality is the is the end of seeking. So it's, I don't know why I'm talking to the camera, I'm used to it. It's the end of a particular experience which says that something needs to happen. Something needs to happen in order for me to feel fulfilled or to get what I want, and that could be anything. That could be sexual gratification, that could be love, money, success, whatever image you have in your head of once I get to there, once I get all my ducks in a row, then I will be where I feel that I need to be in order to feel fulfilled. And then you might notice after a while that the ducks never get into a row, and as soon as you get them into a row, two move, one dies, you know. So it's this impossible task of trying to get your life in order, and eventually this seeking energy, this energy of need, it just runs out, and I think it just runs out organically. I don't think it's not something that can be achieved. So there is such a thing called awakening, that the death of that particular energy. You could say that someone has achieved enlightenment or this great thing, and really no one's achieved anything. It's just that sense of being a person just wears itself out, I think, organically. And when that begins to happen, you might be attracted to certain speakers, and there might be an energetic thing going on where you're like, for some reason I want to listen to this guy and then this guy, and then there's the whole thing is energetic, really. Which brings me to Kundalini, because what is Kundalini? Well, it's an energetic shift in the body which can vary in intensity. So I'm interested in why some people have huge Kundalini awakenings like is happening here, and some people just have the non-dual realization, that realization of no self, and then maybe a little bit of energy moving around the body, and maybe just a little bit of psychic activity. And then other people such as us who get all this crazy psychic activity and energy moving, opening up all the chakras and this type of thing. So this is less common than your average awakening, and this is why I'm particularly fascinated by it, because I think you're fascinated by what's happening here, you know, in the organism. And so Kundalini for me goes hand in hand with the non-dual awakening, and I think a lot of people refer to Kundalini as the energetics of awakening, the energetic aspect of awakening, but to me the whole thing seems energetic, so it seems an odd sort of division, because there's no part of awakening that is to do thinking, that is your, you know, you don't awaken through thought, you can't think yourself into this, so the whole thing to me seems energetic. And the way it was here when realization happened, it doesn't happen to anyone, but it's a sort of seeing, and the way I describe it was it's purely physiological, so it's kind of like, it's almost like the body or the organism realizes that it doesn't have a controller, and it just suddenly relaxes. The way when the pronounced Kundalini symptoms were happening here, I was sitting on my bed and I was quite high, and it was just suddenly became very obvious that this was all kind of empty, and there was this just cycling back into nothingness, and this feeling of like, there's nothing behind phenomena, and there's nothing behind that, and I was like, yeah, but what's behind that? And if there's nothing behind that, and what's behind that? And it was this kind of this cycling back into nothing. So, but that wasn't a seeing, that wasn't that, the way I'm saying that now, that's just a story. Nobody saw that, nobody understood anything, it is just an organic realization.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, please, yes. Did you want to say
go
first?
ahead, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's just listening to what you're saying. I can imagine that for me it would bring up absolute terror, because I would think that one's talking about sort of being a nothingness, or And I suppose I probably would just think, oh my God, what does this mean? You know, rather than wonderful and blooming and opening and...
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but it's actually very subtle. It's not like
is it?
Yeah, it's not like a. I mean, it's probably different for everyone, to be honest. But I was listening to radical non-duality for several years before this happened, and I think there was a slow ingression maybe into this new reality. So as I was listening, I first heard Jim Newman speak. He popped up on my feed a while ago. And something about what he was saying it had a real quality of doom to it. And I was like, I kind of wish I hadn't heard that, you know. But something in me at the same time felt very free and very relaxed and very peaceful. And that won over the fear, was that sense of peace. And so for years I listened to him, and I think that energetically there was lots of stuff happening, but I don't think I was really aware of it until that moment when something quite dramatic happened. And that same night when I had this feeling of cycling back into emptiness, these huge knots began to undo themselves all the way down my spine, starting in my neck. And it was kind of going like, I didn't know it was there, and it just undid itself, and then just all the way down my spine, all these knots kind of undid themselves, and I fell onto the ground like a puppet, and then there was just kind of this feeling of bliss. So something in my body at that moment just let go completely, I think, and the next day I felt really loose. And then since then I've just been having these continuous kriya, which are spontaneous movements caused by this strange, mysterious energy coming up the body. But not everyone that has an awakening has a Kundalini awakening. So those dramatic energy shifts are very much to do with the Kundalini, whereas the awakening itself is a non-event, really. It's just a realization that there is no controller here, that you weren't really in control. You never really did anything wrong or right. It's just simply what's happening organically. Did you want to say something, Don? You never made an introduction.
Well, I could say to the nothingness, like, it's already the case anyway, and it's just that sense of self, which you probably recognise in moments of stillness anyway. Like it's not really a shock in a sense, and it's just a loss of ownership. So it's not really a loss. Like it's experienced differently in terms of the physical, because there is no physical after that. Like, so I suppose that's a little bit odd in the awakening. So just feeling like empty space. But there's still the experience of a person going through time at the same time, but just no one owning that. So it's difficult to describe, but it isn't a loss because of the love aspect, because there's intimacy with everything, so that's kind of juicy and feels very, very natural. So even if there's a shock there, it isn't really a shock. It's kind of nullified by the fact that it's so natural and kind of lovely and peaceful. I mean, just that. I mean, emptiness in itself isn't desirable, really, unless you're so caught up in stuff. You know, like, if your life's been really crazy, it might feel like a relief because of the non-attachment. There's like a sense of, you know, so there isn't that drive to go out to seek diversion or seek thrill seeking, kind of falls away. Like, even, but the stuff that, you know, seemed good to you, like, everything's almost neutralized. It's like nothing particularly moves you, but there's enough in the moment. But seeking continues until love is seen, so that's the end of it. That's game, set and match. That so without that, but I mean, in my case, I didn't know about non-duality when I had the experience of emptiness, so it makes it more natural to speak about, because I just knew there was nothing here, but I didn't understand that because it wasn't in psychiatric literature, because you can talk about being distant from your experience, that would be dissociation or something, but actually physically not be here, literally, is not in any text, because that's beyond mind. So in that sense, it's is quite radical. Like it is, it's a complete disappearance, and yet a normal life continues with normal desires, but they're not, nothing's really clung to, and time's experienced differently because the character still lives in time, but the reality is the timeless, so there just is what is. Not to say that, I mean, thought is, the mind is thought essentially, but thought is seen to be not who I am, so there is, thought can be referenced, time can be referenced. I mean, it's not like, so, but it's different, it really is different, because all the energy is kind of, most of the energy is where you are, and not to say you can't get caught up in suffering and suffer for a bit and get caught up in a story, because anyone can, and stories are quite nice as well. Some of them are nice and some of them are horrible, but it's just, there's no identity in that, so it's the end of identity. And the Kundalini seems to be often experienced around awakening, but sometimes momentarily. Like a lot of people talk about the energy going released up the spine. I think Ajashanti talked about that, just, you know, he felt like he was dying as his heart rate was going crazy, and suddenly energy just shot up the spine. So some people, it just seems like a very, very fleeting experience of that, the intensity of the release of the energy. And but like Hamish was saying, it's, for a Kundalini awakening, is a different kettle of fish, because it doesn't seem to end once that started, and there's always an energetic component, but it gives rise to phenomenon, like interesting stuff, psychic appearances, other dimensions, kriyas.
And healing, just healing the body of the energy. It's quite unusual here, I think, because it's just been healing my teeth, for example. Like I can just feel them. I have these wisdom teeth coming in, and the doctor said to me, we might have to remove them because they could cause issue, and you could end up, they're very close to the nerve, so if the operation goes wrong, you could end up, you know, with just numb cheeks. And so I was kind of concerned about that. And then the Kundalini just started moving them around, and just so I could feel the energy just going up and just dripping into my teeth.
Fangs.
Yeah, and at some point they just lifted my finger, put my finger in my mouth, and then just went and pulled one of the teeth, just repositioned it. So I've got a lot of this on camera, and it's just totally mind blowing. It's totally bizarre, yeah. And that's why there's a passion to talk about it, because it's just so, it's not usual that it's quite this intense, you know. So I'm just kind of very excited to talking about it. I feel a bit frowned upon in the non-dual community, because again it tends to be a bit poo-pooed or dismissed, as seen as a passing phase. And sometimes, you know, it can sort of, it seemingly leads to an awakening, or awakening can happen, and then the Kundalini just continues, you know, just carries on fixing stuff, adjusting things in the body, and anything up to, you know, from, you know, the day's stresses will just be released at the end of the day and sort of purged, and there'll be like a return to homeostasis. Or, you know, traumas that you've had from your childhood will be tackled, and things will come up and have to be dealt with, you know. So it does have a real magical aspect to it, and I'm kind of in love with it in a way, you know, I'm blown away by it. And also it does kind of, it sort of kind of brings back a lot of the magic that's lost from when you were a kid, you know, when you grow up and suddenly life's very serious and you have to work and make money. And I work with kids, I work in a nursery, and I'm fascinated by the fact that they, you know, of all the toys and puppets they choose, they prefer the fairies, they prefer the unicorns, they prefer the things that are just out of reach, you know, the magic and the mystery, you know. And I think Kundalini, if nothing else, it just returns a little bit of that magic and mystery that we feel like we've lost, you know, as a society.
It's quite a poetic take.
Thanks.
Has anybody got any questions?
So Hamish, when I was much younger, childhood was quite challenging, traumatic, terrifying. So at some point, I now know this, I detached or dissociated and started living in my head all my life.
Oh, wow.
Now that's changed recently, and I'm coming slowly back into the body.
Cool.
And appreciating a lot more about life and the environment, and there's a brightness and a vividness that wasn't there before. Whenever I've done things like TRE, trauma release exercises for the psoas muscle, or breath work, or anything sort of body related, my mind has always taken hold of the process and sort of censored, directed, or controlled the process, or given me perhaps illusory gains where, wow, this feels good, I'm getting there, sort of thing.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you, whatever you go through sounds brilliant. How would somebody who is fairly mind-based be able to...
Well, I would say yoga. The yoga is the ultimate, the best thing you could do for your body. It's the kindest you can be to your body in every possible sense. So in terms of taking attention away from the thought and into the body, yoga classes are better because you're forced to do the whole thing. You're not going to quit halfway through rather than doing it online. I did a lot of hot yoga, and that's when the Kundalini activation began. I don't think it was the yoga that caused the Kundalini, the activation of this energy. I think I'd been listening to Non-Duality, and there was a kind of, I guess my sense of self was a little bit shaky, and then just getting into the body and doing all that breath work, it can spark something off, yeah, for sure. And I think I personally am not a meditator. I was never able to, even when I was a fairly ardent spiritual seeker in my mid-20s, early 20s actually, to all the way through my 20s. I was listening to a lot of Eckhart Tolle, and I was trying to meditate, but I was trying too hard, I was like, come on already, and it was just not working, so I kind of gave up after a while. But I took on his suggestions when he talked about things like just returning your attention to the breath whenever you're wandering around, rather than having a meditation practice. If that's not working for you, just when you're walking around, when you're on the tube, just returning your attention to the breath, like sounds like you're doing already, out of mind, back into body, and eventually the mind just loses momentum, really, I think. So I think it's a good practice to do.
And hot yoga, particularly?
Yeah, it's really tough. I feel like I haven't done it for a while, but I feel like I'm going to faint at least once in the lesson. It's like 45 minutes or an hour in a hot sauna, usually about 37 degrees. Yeah. So it's pretty full on, and it's great health benefits. So you've got to drink plenty of water because you get really dehydrated. But you feel amazing when you come out of one of them. The body is just so appreciative, and I do see awakening as a physiological thing. I'm not saying you have to be healthy or do any of these things. You don't have to do anything actually, but Kundalini, as the way I see it, does go hand in hand with I'm drinking a beer now, I drink, I go out, I do all sorts, but health does make it easier for this energy to come through.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would also say therapy too, because in therapy you're learning to emote while you speak, which is bringing you back into the body, but it's also creating more connections between the left and right side of the brain, so it's healing in that sense. So also talking therapy is good. I mean, the body stuff on its own is probably limited to some extent as well without that, I think. Just saying it's another angle. I don't know, it's talking, but it's talking and feeling is where you want to get, and so.
I've done loads of therapy, but I think it was just talking, not feeling.
Oh right, okay. So it's another way of avoiding it, maybe.
Avoiding.
Okay. Well, maybe your therapist didn't challenge you on that. I don't know, but yeah.
I think as one goes through life, greater discoveries take place, and a self-discovery can take place. Oh, I've just been in thinking mode and avoidance mode, or impressing the therapist mode, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to get trapped in that.
But bypassing, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Spiritual bypass.
And that seems to be happening, or was happening with Non-Duality as well, where I thought, oh yeah, this is good, I'll get there.
Yeah, but even if you're not thinking that, there's that urge. You can't get rid of it, can you? Because even if on some level you can't get there, that seeking urge is just there. You can't deny it. It's another. You end up suppressing that. Like, who does meditation as a seeker, not wanting to wake up? I mean, I would say nobody does. But
well, I've only just discovered it in the last few months. I find it quite relaxing. I couldn't give previously about any of that kind of thing, but now I do find myself doing it. The body wants to do it, because I'm also experiencing loads of energy or whatever coming through. But I didn't know what it was. But now, last few months, I've learnt about Kundalini and things.
But
I didn't have a label previously.
you're already seen the non-dual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting as well that you want to meditate after. I mean,
Yeah, because
I find that as well.
It's like a bodily thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And they say that with Kundalini as well. There's more urge to meditate as well. So.
Yeah.
It's funny how meditation can change. You know, like I was telling you last week, there's the seeker's version of meditation, right? I'm going to meditate to get there, which is just the same old bullshit. It's just the same old bullshit. And then there's the just. This is just meditation.
You're just
like,
being.
This is
right. Attention happens to go to the breath. That's fine. Yeah.
It's just happening.
Yeah.
So it's nice, and there's none of that going on.
Yeah.
That's the only meditation there is, because the other one isn't meditation anyway. It's the seeking, right? It's still seeking.
I don't even bother with the breathing and all of that. You know, just let the body just and then sort of.
Sometimes when I meditate, I think maybe this will give rise to another Kundalini experience.
Well, it can do that, I think.
Yeah.
Have you had a lot of breathless stuff going on there, where you just not been breathing?
No, just breathe normally. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of just not breathing. Like I did a lot of yoga.
Yeah.
Like years ago now. It's becoming years ago, and lots of just not breathing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I did a bit of that naturally. I was talking to you about it.
Just
it's
stopping.
interesting.
I'm not breathing.
Yeah.
Wow.
What, you mean you did it on purpose?
No, just.
Oh, I see. Your body just.
Well, not breathing.
Yeah. Well, I get. I was going to say I do it anyway on purpose when I go to the sauna a lot, and then I go into a cold plunge pool, and I hold my breath, and I realise I can do it for a long time. It feels very peaceful.
Yeah.
But the Kundalini will also just stop my breath, so I lie on the floor, I get all these kriya and mudra and sort of strange hand gestures that you just kind of observe, and everyone in there, and now and then it will just hold the position very intensely, or it will just stop my breathing, and usually it's very obvious about it. It will just put my hand over my nose and mouth and just leave it there. So it's sort of forcing you into a state of meditation whether you wanted to go there or not.
Are you having visions at the same time, or are you aware of dealing with certain issues?
I'm not aware of dealing with a lot of issues, but I get like strange visions sometimes, but I can't really make head or tail of them yet. But there's a lot of energy going up to the brain and moving things around, and sort of the visual cortex seems to be amplified, and I think it wakes up dormant areas of the brain and things like that. That's what Gopi Krishna says anyway, and he wrote some books about it, which is quite interesting. So I've not had any sort of premonition, but certainly just what I often see is literally like an eye just staring back at me, and it will change colour sometimes, and it will just turn into white light. And then one time I saw through it onto some bizarre reality that I couldn't make head or tail of.
Or are you able to transmit the energy?
I don't know. I'm interested. I've no idea. I find that I love to, one of the way this energy likes to express, maybe it's just me, I just love to dance. I love to go out there. There's a real passion for that, and always has been. And with this energy, that's sort of amplified times 20. And I get the feeling that if I'm dancing, like, there's a contagious thing going on. I feel, but then I really don't know. I haven't experimented really. I've been had sexual relationships with people since this, and wondered if they were going to get some sort of activation, and as far as I know, that hasn't happened. So maybe it's to do with the readiness of the individual and physiology.
Well, there's some Indian gurus who do the Shakti.
Shaktipat, right? Yeah. I wondered. I don't know if. I have this thing where the energy will just heal me of its own accord, or like I get really severe acid reflux if I'm lying in bed and I put my hands on myself, stuff will just start to happen. Whether I could do that on someone else, I've no idea. I should probably experiment. But, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Muktananda encouraged it. He was the Kundalini guru, right. And everybody was doing a lot of kriyas, and then Muktananda's, I think was it Muktananda who said, you no longer need to do kriyas to get enlightenment, and suddenly they all stopped. I don't know, but anyway, I do wonder with the Shaktipat if there's an element of almost like a Zen koan, a slight shock, and it stuns the mind for momentarily, like, because there is, I don't know, there are situations that seem to give rise to Kundalini, and one of them is shock, and another one is just being dropped on your tailbone, like, so.
Sounds harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you sort of think it's supposed to be coiled at the base of the spine, right?
Yeah.
So there seems to be some kind of logic to that as well. And prayer, meditation.
What life from?
Well, I suppose some of the meditations are like that, aren't they? Some of the vigorous ones where you're kind of lifting yourself off the ground a bit, and
Yeah.
the whole, yeah.
Oh, with the flying, is it flying
Yogic
lotus or
flying,
something?
yogic
Meditation.
Oh yeah.
meditation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've seen people that do Kundalini transmission.
Yeah, I've seen footage of it as well. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, the videos they always look really sanitized to me. There was some beautiful woman dressed in like tight clothes and someone going like that. You know, I always look at those videos and go, I don't know. But then, you know, the movements seem, that sort of thing does happen when you're in that state. So I don't know. There's something to that. I think to those things.
Maybe. I mean, also Kundalini yoga. I mean, there are not a lot of people. It doesn't seem to spark off a lot in those kind of environments. I mean, that's what Gopi Krishna found. It's like these techniques don't necessarily give rise to it. There are some statistics around it, like some of the breathing exercises, stuff, heartfelt prayer, but shock, grief as well. The usual suspects for awakening per se, you know, like the non-dual seeing in the story of time, grief and shock tend to be in that story preceding the awakening. The same with Kundalini as well. And the things they say about having sex with somebody who's awakened, but I think that's myth, like, and so, you know, I'm sure gurus have been taking advantage of that one for many years, but yeah. Lee, you were having kriyas, weren't you? You want to talk? You know.
There's been a lot of energetic. It's been very crazy here, yeah.
Cool.
Energy-wise, yeah, very crazy.
Oh.
Like just arms going out.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
stuck out like
Yeah.
this, basically.
Yeah.
And almost loss of control, total loss of control sometimes. And all the violent shaking on the yoga mat.
Yeah. That's very
A
familiar.
lot of that, so much of that.
Same.
You caught years of that.
Yeah, it can go on for years. Yeah,
Years.
it's daunting.
Yeah.
It's daunting. Yeah.
I sort of liked it.
Oh, so it stopped now, is it?
Oh,
there's still the odd.
it's very it's just energetic
Yeah.
here, but it's not as violent. I
No,
don't think.
No, I quite like it. It's
But
quite
who
fun,
knows?
especially since you know it's doing you good. So
Yeah.
I just go along with it. But it is that first moment where your hand goes like that,
Oh,
and then
it's
it's just like
yeah.
very surreal. Yeah.
It's a strange blend, isn't it? So peace, but a real kind of
Release of
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing kind of forced at all, is there? It's just
No.
It's just like an unwinding. It sort of seems like that somehow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
But when I wake up in the this body's just been grasping since day one, basically, just like really terrified, holding, and that pattern is still there. So when I wake up in the morning, it's, you know, I mean, I'm exaggerating it, but it's still there, and it's about maybe half an hour before that loosens.
Right.
And then as soon as that loosens, it's just, you know, it's nice again. It's nice again, but it's still there every morning. And so I can see, like this week, for example, there's just been this sort of delicious pain. It's right as just it's cellular almost in the bones. It almost feels like it's in the bones.
Yeah.
And it's just delicious.
Okay.
It's
Right.
delicious.
Like
And
it's all over your
it's
body.
just more
or-
relaxing. It's just more relaxing. It's just relaxing. It's just more sort of falling out.
Yeah.
It's taken a very long time to all fall out because it's just so used to this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't get much of the kriya stuff. I mean, it's more visual and like other dimension stuff, but the end of one of my kind of near-death experience ones, it ended with me being flung into a cobra position. which was interesting. I mean, that's the last kriya I got. But my kriyas are generally just a hand movement or shoulder. You know, like they're not radical in any sense. They never were, like, well, except on the day of my awakening maybe. So Hamish's are ongoing.
I get it. This leg goes like this as
Me
well.
too.
This goes crazy.
Yeah.
It's and when I look at where like the body injuries are, it's this
Right,
shoulder,
right.
which is this arm,
Right.
it's this shoulder,
Yeah.
it's this hip,
Yeah.
and that knee.
Yeah, I get a lot of that.
So it's all around
Yeah, it's all
that.
connected, yeah. I get a lot of that, but it's to do with my sciatica, so it's trying to like a trapped nerve. I did a pilgrimage years ago, and I was trying to like loosen it somehow. But you do notice, you start to, as everything unravels physically, you do notice how things are all connected in the body. Like I had knots that when they started to disappear in my back, my fingers just relaxed, and I realised that the knot was twisting energy, and my finger was coming towards me, and I thought, oh, that's maybe the root of like arthritis or something like that, because and then everything just loosened. I thought it's extraordinary. So I have these knots all over my body. Didn't know they were there.
No,
There's
same,
so many of
same.
them, and every knot, like at the moment, I have this thing where my head just does that. For months, it was doing like that, just that for as long as I could bear it, basically. And then something gave way, and then my head started doing like that. And then once this knot was undone, there'll be one next to it, and that one would undo itself faster, and then that one would and just spiraling out of all this tension, literally. But I just can't believe this has been going on for a while now, and I'm just like, it's got to be near. How much tension is there? You know what I mean?
Well, I know,
That's the mind-blowing thing, you know,
It's
what we do to
yes,
ourselves.
yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's
That's
insane.
what this thing this week's like that. Just like, wow.
Yeah.
How's that still
It's like,
there?
yeah, even if you feel like, even if you're an athlete, you don't realise that you're walking around like that all your life. It's bizarre.
It's individual physiology, I suppose, isn't it? I do a lot of driving for a living, so it's always, especially at the end of the day or whatever, if I just get into the body and just let it all kind of shake out, literally.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's funny you mentioned dancing. I started about 2 years ago, and I love it.
I've always gone crazy for that. Even as a teenager, it was a way for me of just letting loose, and for some reason not feeling self-conscious, even though I was very self-conscious in any others.
Yeah, I never could dance because I was so self-conscious and stiff. I just couldn't even move. It's like just like real. Oh my god! Really, whoa! And now it's like. It's going wild. really going crazy now.
Yeah.
It does dance. Yeah, do you get it standing? I can get it standing, and then when I'm standing and it happens, I start to dance after a while.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yes. I've not had that. Okay.
That's what Paul Morgan Summers gets. He gets that when he wakes up in the middle of the night, spontaneous dancing.
Oh wow.
And I've heard of another non-duality speaker get that. I won't mention any names, but yeah, I've heard of that before.
Just
Spontaneous.
Again, like just the energy kind of, it's, you just have to.
It's so hard to buy into this unless you've experienced it. That's the problem. So the Kundalini is a difficult sell, you know, and also not I'm selling it, but and also like when I first started having kriya, just my shoulders would just move like that, and I thought that was extreme enough. And I remember watching a video of some lady, and she was doing a little demonstration, and she was just dancing. I think women's kriya can be a bit more, it looked like she was African dancing or something, and I was just like, bullshit, just pathology or whatever. And that night I just started swaying a little bit from side to side, and I was like, oh my god, lady, like I'm so sorry, because you just go, if you haven't experienced it, or if you don't know how, you just call bullshit. How can you? So I just know, if people just give me the finger, I'm like, no, of course, of course you're not going to
It's fucking crazy, doesn't it? Can
It's insane.
It does because I'm aware in public, if I was to do what the body would naturally do, say if I was just in a private setting, people probably would misinterpret that as if I'd either be on drugs, or have some sort of fits or something like that, or a little bit standoffish, like leave that crazy dude there.
Definitely. I've seen
So
fear, like, because the only time I got big kriyas was the day of my awakening, and in a hotel bar, and seeing the staff looking really concerned because the movements were just so delicious. But I knew as well, like, this seems to be somehow, if you don't want it to happen, there seems to be some control over it as well. Like, I haven't heard of cases where is out of control. Well, there must be, because it's got that reputation, doesn't it, of like madness. I mean, I think that's exaggerated as well, the kind of madness in Kundalini, because I mean,
there was a phase where I felt quite mad, but when I was seeking very intensely, I used to take huge amounts of psychedelics, and I mean, you know, unwise amounts of just have psychotic breaks with reality, and then have to deal with that, and the fear that would come up, and the sort of like, just the absolute madness, and because I'm a nutter, I would do it again, and I was like, I'm sure it's something in I'm sure I can fix, and then there, you know, like walking around the streets with my shoes off, shouting at people, they're just completely psychotic. But when the Kundalini was at its most kind of like touch and go, that beginning, that change between the normal way of being and whatever this is, that was so intense here that there was 3 or 4 days where I was like, oh, I should just check myself. I need to talk to someone. But no, it was fine. It just kind of all balanced itself out. And but I do get the madness thing. I think it was short lived here, I think, but yeah, I don't know if that state could be prolonged. I hope that no one's going through that. You know.
Actually, there were a few people at meetings, some of my meetings over the years, who, like, because they'd been isolated and no one to talk to about it, and they felt on the edge about it, and are they going crazy? So maybe it's that, because the taboo about talking about it, although most people can relate to it, and even the Christian thing, it's seen as Holy Spirit, and I don't know. I think when people are open about it, like, most people can relate to a lot of people can, an experience of it, like an episode, or but ongoing, it's more unusual, isn't it? Because once it's like, Kundalini awakening is different than an episode, because Kundalini awakening seems to last until you die, basically.
So what you're describing is involuntary and spontaneous?
Yeah.
Or do you initiate?
No, it's completely involuntary, completely spontaneous. I mean, if I lie on my yoga mat, this it can happen at any time. Like if I relax, my shoulders will just start moving. Like I'll walk around town at the moment, my neck's doing all this crazy, my leg's getting really long. It's surreal. But no, well, normally what I do when I'm at home, I have a yoga mat on my floor, it's there the whole time. I just lie on my mat and just mad stuff, stuff down, completely spontaneous and very intense, very, very full on. Sort of like karate kind of bizarre. Yeah. Very, very, very surprising. I mean, I'm as shocked as anyone else. You know, that's why I'm talking about it, because I'm like, help me figure out what the fuck this is, because you know, it's very weird.
I'm wondering when it's happening. Are you aware of what you're thinking? Is there a psychological dimension?
I think this is the funny thing. I think about all sorts of things. I think about having a sandwich. Like I don't have to be. I can just let it do its thing. I don't need to be present with it. The movements just do it themselves. But sometimes it will try to focus me. Like sometimes it does this movement where it goes like that, and I just all like that. And I just feel like it's telling me to shut up. So then I just stop thinking, and there's this intensification. So it'll just blow. Intensifying presence, or just parting the thoughts, or it will just make me hold the thing for a while. It's really determined to do whatever it's doing.
I think there could be an element of transmission, because I've started to shake.
Oh, have you?
I don't know.
Great.
I did see that in some of the meetings I was at with Richard in Munich, and like the whole couple of rows of people started tics and noises, and so there must be a contagious
That's
element,
probably a relaxation as well, isn't it? I think it's... Yeah.
It's relaxing. I just see it as that. It's just
It
relaxation.
is. It is.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It comes out quite funny sometimes.
Yeah, very much so.
Because it's just like that.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's so tense.
That's it, and I think
and unnoticed
until
it comes out.
That's the surprising thing. Yeah, you're like, how did I not realise?
Yeah. My jaw goes sometimes from side to
Me
side.
too.
That's a little bit freaky.
Me too.
Freaky, isn't it?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you look.
I think Rick Archer, he was getting spontaneous grins, and you know him from Buddha and the Gas Pump, but like
Who, sorry?
Rick Archer,
Ah.
you know, Buddha and the Gas Pump. He's getting a lot of that. That must have looked
That's very
really disturbing as well. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
It does seem like a natural release, though, doesn't it? And I think this should be much more in a public consciousness or whatever you want to call it. You know, it does seem to be a natural.
Yeah, I think so.
Happening.
I think what Hamish was saying about
bodily
back,
thing, you know.
yeah, taking you back to equilibrium, because I notice it flares up after excitement or fear, for sure. It's almost like the body discharges whatever it is,
Yeah.
but it'll just give rise to phenomenon, whatever that is, you know, like, and you just be in a state of bliss or calm, like whatever, but instead of what I would normally have done, which would be just, you know, I don't know, want a drink or something to calm me down, or just be up all night anyway, but it'd be visions or whatever the fuck, something more interesting than, you know, the usual kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, I get that, a lot of that sort of endless exploration that just goes on and on and on. So I'll just be walking around being active, and then I'll sit down and I'll breathe out, and then there's this extra expiration that goes, and I don't know what's doing. It's just, it feels like it's getting rid of toxins and things like that. And it speaks to you sometimes. The Kundalini will just give you a suggestion. It did this much more at the beginning, but it would just say something like, hold your breath for as long as you can, and you just go like, just hold my breath as long as you can, and then some sort of purging will happen afterwards. And one time I was in bed, I was lying there, and I was just thinking, just kind of lost in thoughts, and then this thought was kind of in the background, and it said fast or slow, and I didn't really hear it, so I kind of stopped thinking, and it came through loud, and it said fast or slow, and I just went fast, and the kriya just started going mental, like completely shaking and crazy. So it was like giving me an option, which is bizarre. It was really bizarre. I chose the quick one.
Some of the things you're mentioning, they seem to overlap into other modalities, like there's something called the Buteyko method, where breath is held.
Oh, right.
Breath is held, and that way the body gets used to breathing less.
Yeah, yeah.
And that has its advantages.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then with the shaking, TRE is trauma release exercises, where you deliberately stress the psoas muscle.
Oh.
This muscle that holds a lot of tension in the
Okay.
body. It only takes about 5 minutes to go through various things that
Yeah.
stress that muscle, and then a shaking happens. It's a spontaneous shaking, but it sounds
Right.
a little
Yeah,
similar
a
to
little
what
bit,
you're
yeah,
describing, and the body shakes where it
Oh,
wants to.
Oh,
TRE
interesting.
is
I don't know that. Okay.
David Baselli, and he's done it in war zones for PTSD.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. They teach it to the military, I think, don't they?
Military use it now for survivors,
Uh-huh.
people that have been in a war zone or rape victims or
Yeah.
something
Oh, wow.
like that.
Oh, wow, cool.
Shaking is the body's, I believe, natural way.
Yeah,
of
I think you're right. It's a
releasing
response to
tension.
stress and
Yeah,
releasing
in
tension.
extreme,
Yeah,
in extreme situations, we
Yeah.
tend to shake.
That's
When
right.
Society stops us. It's all right.
That's right. You're
all
seen like a crazy person.
Yeah, it's
What are you
all
doing?
right.
Take some drugs.
He's
Yeah.
gone now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, inject you with a drug. or
Exactly.
take
Calm you
to-
down.
Calm
Yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah.
Give him some water.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
There's a whole lot of shaking going on.
Animals, you see, animals, I think, they say that if a polar bear is captured and taken elsewhere, he'll
Yeah.
shake for a time,
Yeah.
and that event will have no relevance anymore. Lots and lots of animals.
Yeah. Dogs with trauma, I think, as well. Yeah, yeah.
But this seems like, I mean, the movements, as you were saying, like they're very, there's something almost regal about them.
Yes.
They're
Balletic.
yeah, balletic.
Yeah, yeah.
And also it does seem like a supernatural, it does seem like an intelligence behind them, because
Yeah.
you know, like the visions have very often a divine, even some of the colours are not ordinary colours. There's a holiness to them, like, you know it's the sacred, but it's, you know, it's, they're not just bland visions, are they? You know, like it's, you know, it opens up your perceptions, because you realise, oh, hold on, this isn't what I thought. Like, okay, the non-dual, you realise that there's no one here, etc., but it makes you realise this is not the only reality as well. I think you come to that conclusion, and maybe there's something else going on, like, because, you know, it's not, doesn't seem very random, and it does seem like a fast track through psychological issues as well. Like, it does seem like that's certainly been the case here, like, for sure, and you know, so
Yeah, and just change it. I mean, I always keep, if people ask, when people ask my personality change, I always say no, but there is a different response to different situations. There's a more willingness to sort of step up, whereas before I would have not said anything. For example, I was at work and we needed more staff, and I had a throat chakra opening at some point, which was my head kind of, well, first of all, I saw a picture of utensils on my bed, or like doctor's equipment, like knives and things like that. And I was like, what's that about? It's like, oh my God, it's going to do some deep work on me, you know. So I sort of prepared myself and sat up on the bed, and then my head went back like that, and I was like that for about, I don't know, 15 minutes, something like that. Really intense. None of it's painful, but you do wonder at those moments, you know, what the hell is going on here? And then the next day I was just asking for more staff, and I was kind of speaking with this authority and passion, and I just didn't recognize myself anymore. I was like, this isn't me, you know. So I suppose in that sense there are psychological differences that are quite pronounced, but personality wise I'm exactly the same. Nothing's changed in the way I'm very absurd, silly character, fun loving, you know, that's been untouched.
That's incredible when the words are coming out like that, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. I felt very clean though. It's not aggressive.
Yeah. Particularly in work, because I used to be sort of terrified at work in a sense that I wouldn't say a word, and then you just see it in a meeting like,
yeah.
These words that are coming out. And just leave them alone.
Yeah.
Not my words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too, where words can come from a place that is not me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's just a few instances of that, like in a supermarket, and saying to the guy who's cashier, you've had a NDE, haven't you? Like, just came out my mouth, and he was like, oh, I'm writing a book about that, oh my God, you know, like, stuff like that. I had a few instances with awake people and just coming out with it and realising, like, something in me knew that they were awake, and it was just came out. And
Intuition kind of.
well, it wasn't intuition, it was spontaneous speech. It was like it's stuff I wouldn't say, just be, you know, ordinarily, like, that sounds mad, and it just come out and it would hit the right target. But yeah, now it doesn't happen so often. Well, it hasn't happened in ages, like, but it isn't you speaking, it's like a kriya, it is like a kriya. It is a kriya, I think. It's just not talked about. I've never heard that in the literature, but it must be.
Makes sense, yeah.
See, everything you guys are speaking of is sort of confirming that this isn't the reality, this is not our three-dimensional existence is not the ultimate reality.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time I took magic mushrooms was then that became very evident, and I think that's what started the notion that there was more to, at least more to reality than my thoughts, you know, let alone the appearance, you know, because I was just very insular, you know. The day after, I was looking at people in the street, you know, walking around, and just for the first time being interested in them. My own issues. I was like, I wonder what that guy's feeling today, or where he's coming from, or where he's going, you know. So these things, I recommend, psychedelics taken in a safe environment, you know, with a sit or whatever. I don't do them so much now, but very, very interesting.
Is it mushrooms you did mainly? Or
yeah, mushrooms, a little bit of DMT, but it's so harsh to smoke, I couldn't really, and cannabis.
Yeah, I've done all three of those,
Never did ayahuasca, but I've got a friend who raised it.
I've done.
Right.
That can be brilliant.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, real cleanse.
Don't you have to go to a forest or something to do that? They do it
You
in
have to
the
go
jungle,
to certain
don't they?
places.
Yeah.
You can go to a jungle abroad.
Yeah.
You could go to a retreat centre abroad.
You go to your bedroom.
Probably not the same.
Oh, really? I've done it in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you recommend it?
My understanding is, experience is, ayahuasca is better off done in a ceremonial type place with support. Because, for me at least, once I took a little too much or asked for a little too much and drifted off into a complete no-ego place, and there was extreme panic.
Oh, right, okay.
But
In that case, yeah.
me resisting what was happening.
Yeah,
Which can happen.
Yeah.
And also one can lose the capacity to function completely. There was one of my journeys where there was no me left. I just merged up with completely all my surroundings.
Oh, right,
And
okay.
as I was being led to the toilet, my each foot was merging with the ground. So there was no boundaries.
Your foot
between
was merging into it.
into
Oh, I've
the
had that
ground.
experience
Yeah.
without
the boundaries.
taking anything out.
Ah,
Actually, it was terrifying.
that can be terrifying.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Basically, I meant that sometimes with these things they can be terrifying.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you've got trauma and stuff, yeah, go in a group and be supported for sure. Yeah, any doubts whatsoever. Yeah, I'm just talking about me and a friend.
What, you got the brew from somewhere and just drank it?
Oh.
Okay.
Didn't do anything for me, to be honest. But I did take notes from my friend who had lots of things going on, very interesting things. So I was there to write them down. Very useful.
There's a non-duality speaker called Frank McCaughey.
Oh yeah.
He's made a film about Bufo, or 5 Mio.
Oh yeah,
The Sontaran from...
Oh, has it?
Yeah,
Oh.
5, I think it's 5 Mio.
The
DMT.
God molecule, they
God
call it.
molecule,
Yeah.
Oh, right.
A guy called Wojtek speaks a lot about that. There's got a YouTube channel. I think he's German. Cool guy, and he talks highly about that particular substance.
I'm
You
keen
can get a
on that
glimpse.
one.
You can get glimpses on these things.
Mike Tyson done a lot of that.
Mike Tyson, yeah, that's right.
It changed him completely.
Really? Or
Yeah.
post his career.
Post his career.
Yeah, right, yeah.
He said nothing matters.
That'd be
after
funny
that.
if you did it
He's-
whilst.
Because his ego was needed to be pretty.
Well, he said he needed his ego to get to where
Right.
he got to. So
Yeah.
afterwards, he was
Yeah.
crying. He said,
Yeah.
none of it matters.
Right.
No cars, no money, no belts,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
What about? Didn't you have? Or maybe you don't want to talk about it. Didn't you have some energetic experiences as well, or
I have had, yeah.
do you want to talk about them, or
Mm.
you don't have to? Just kidding.
Not at the moment.
Okay, no worries. Anybody else had any they want to share, or like? Maybe not.
But years ago, I had this huge, massive energy flow up from the feet, up and down the head, and that seemed to go on for like 2 or 3 hours.
Any changes afterwards, or like was it blissful during it, or?
Yeah, it was like, it was. I thought I was some sort of mystic. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
But no, it's fantastic. Yeah, but it was very peaceful. But
Did you know what it was?
I felt what it was, but no, I couldn't explain what it was. No, I didn't try to. Then I was a little bit perturbed by it also, because it was so unusual.
Isn't it weird? Like you can't talk about this stuff when you don't know what it is as well, and some of the most significant experiences of your life, and you're like, can't speak about it.
Well, this is why these meetings are great, because when I started getting symptoms, I was like, who do I talk to about this? Look, I still haven't told my family about it.
You won't need to.
Yeah, please. I was going to say, but yeah, and then I first time I recognised symptoms, I spoke to Nargis, who confirmed what it was, and then I phoned a friend called Rakesh, who I met at a Tim Kliss meeting. For some reason, I don't know why, just I thought he would have an idea of what this is, and he's going through similar. And I talk to him a lot because it's just nice to, all these things happen, you need an outlet for it,
It was interesting what you said earlier about other dimensions, because a few weeks ago I had a dream, and there was a young girl in the dream. She was about 9, 10, that kind of age, but it was really obvious in the dream that she knew everything. She knew absolutely everything that was going on, and she'd been kind of sidelined by her family because of it. She'd been put down and squashed. So there was a bit of stuff in the dream, and then at the end of the dream, she came up to me and she said, "Remember." And then I woke up, and then I was lying in bed, and I had this really strong sensation of energy of four 4 golden blocks, sort of bricks of energy here, 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 and here. And I just lay there feeling that. And it was a really powerful dream. And then it comes back to me, So that, but I'm mentioning that because of the link from the dream to the awake, to the physical experience.
Yeah, I've had that as well. Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about other dimensions. So you're linking Kundalini to other dimensional experiences.
Yeah, that's one of the psychic experience. It could be visions, and then other dimensions, experience of other dimensions can go on to that. Mine seem to have gone on to near-death experiences where I know I'm dead, which has just fascinated me because death just seems sweet now, like it just does. And the Kundalini energy is just going the whole time, because last week I had one, it was just an out-of-body experience, but I was above the door and I was just looking down the room and there's blocks of light in the room and I was just fascinated by that, but my body was like just going through like massive energy stuff. It was some of it painful at the same time, but it's just interesting that, you know, like I think all these things, all these ideals of like all these things in the literature, like heaven, hell's Bardo states, I think it all possibly exists, you know, and meeting Christ, meeting the Buddha, like all of this stuff that has a reality to it in those other dimensions as much as this does. That's my experience.
So
like,
do you feel enhancement or healing as a result of those excursions?
Some of them I've had spontaneous realization of resolution of issues, which I think is that Yvonne Caisson's talked about. So there has been psychological stuff that's just been resolved. There's been like twice it's been like an answer to a prayer, because I prayed and through nights, like because I was going through a really turbulent period, and there was a couple of nights where I just prayed because I just didn't want to wake up. It wasn't like I wanted to kill myself, I just didn't want to wake up in the morning. It was just like, please let me die in my sleep. So I did. I died in my sleep as far as I was concerned, because there was no doubt in my mind that I was dead. Absolutely none. It was like dead. So I was thinking about my life, thinking, well, could have gone on, but it was good, and you know, I'm happy enough, and I'm going to a good place. I'm going to a good place. So much for non-duality. But actually, it's not in contradiction to that too, because you know, you can go to a good place here, like go to the pub. Do you know what? Like it's not really any different. It's just a different level. It's a bit more supernatural because your ability to fly and the beings you meet and the power and like power of thought rather than you don't need to talk. It seems.
Well, it's interesting word then, isn't it? Supernatural. I mean, so is it supernatural or is it just natural?
Well, it feels natural, but it is technically. I mean, if you're talking. Yeah, I mean, it's the same as awakening. It's natural, but it's kind of. It's amazing when it happens in a kind of subtle way.
Yeah, I think it's both in a way. I mean, it's supernatural. It's completely organic, completely natural, really. I think, but from the perspective. From where you were before, what we know, it seems supernatural because it's just so novel. It's just novel, and we're such strange creatures, you know, human beings with all these untapped areas of the brain. We're sort of an animal, definitely somewhere between an animal and something else, and we're just open to all these odd experiences. It's very, it's just so weird, isn't it?
And it makes you question the non-dual, like the sort of taboo against mentioning the soul, like because. Obviously, if you experience anything out of the body, I don't experience being in the body, but I know what I mean when I say that. My consciousness is over there, like, or in a different dimension, or in two places at once, like, you know, but the thinking and everything is done from a different perspective. Like, it's that soul psyche, it's just like personality is somewhere else. It's not here, even though there is no here. That makes sense to me too. It's not. But it is more interesting than normal experience to me, like, even though everything is kind of equal, like the cup of tea, blah, 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 that's the non-dual saying, but it's certainly more desirable, like anything. Within that, there is more desirable things. It does not, it's still all experience is the same. There's no great shakes. Even when I came back from hell, like a lot of hell experiences, there was no, I wasn't shaken by them in a kind of normal sense, like somehow that doesn't make sense to me, like suddenly the equilibrium's there back in the room or back in the body, and why aren't you shaking? You've just been to hell. Like, I mean, that just seems bizarre in a way, like, but it's definitely more colourful than normal life, for sure, but...
I've had some glimpses of hell.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And it obviously didn't happen. Yeah.
Oh, well, same as anything
Yeah,
didn't
exactly,
happen?
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah,
It was,
I get that.
still that. It was...
Yeah, I get that.
Thankfully, because if that were real, oh my god, it's like the...
But in that moment it is as real as this, right?
Yes.
Were you there, as in, like, it wasn't a dream of hell, or was it actual experience of being in hell, or...
It was like, it's experience. I think experience of it, yes.
Can you elaborate on it, or do you not want to...
It was so unbelievably terrifying. And it was just a glimpse.
Okay, a glimpse when you were in it, other beings, or...
Just the feel of the terror of it. Just
okay,
the
alright.
utter terror of it.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
inescapability of that terror.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh, fuck, damned.
Oh, right, okay. Right.
Like that sort of thing. But it was still obviously not happening, and when it was going on, it was just like...
Okay, so you brought your awakening with you. Like,
it was
so to
just...
speak.
But, yeah.
Was it an archetypal hell, like demons? No,
I can't say there was like any visual stuff going on. It was just obviously that. If you...
And afterwards?
It...
How were you afterwards? Where were you? Were you in bed, or...?
I was overseas.
Uh-huh.
I was overseas. I was actually at a sort of a yoga centre.
Uh-huh.
But I couldn't. I sort of. It was like there was some fear going on that had been inflated, almost like inflated to such a magnitude that it took me there. If you like.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like just a infinitesimal speck of fear.
Yeah.
That just went to an infinite space of fear.
Right. Okay.
So no way to get out of it. And I was at this place like, whoa, and I ended up going somewhere else to try and come down somehow. Try and deflate somehow. I just thought that's what seemed, was going on in my mind. And it ended. It ended where it's like, there's no escape from this. There's no way I can get out of this at all. And I ended up going into the temple there. It was like the only place and just lying. I was lying sort of just on the ground and just saying the Lord's Prayer.
And that diffused.
Over and over and over. And then at the point of death, like it was obvious the body was about to die. If you know what I mean? It was the death was there just at that point. Oh,
It lifted.
it just all relaxed, just all, and the energy came up, and it was all just sweet and.
But just kind of back to normal, like.
No, still, but just relief
Okay.
from that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the following morning I woke up, and it was like the charge in this arm, the negative charge in that arm just went. I was like, oh, fine.
Wow. Okay.
Just completely, fine.
Whoa. Right. Okay.
But the in it the.
Oh,
Do you think it was
yeah,
some
yeah.
kind of purging, or was it more like you were being shown something?
I don't know.
Good.
I'm talking about it, and I sort of, when I was thinking about it after it happened, it was bringing it back as well. It was bringing the terror back. Thinking of it, it's like, oh my god, it's all coming back. Oh my god. I mean, I'm alright to talk about it now, but it's very, very scary. Very scary.
Yeah.
It's like it's like knowing that there is everything. That it's like knowing that as high as there's the highest of the high and there is the lowest of the low.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like knowing that and being at one of those poles.
I think that for me it was like, my first experience of hell was like, you know, because there was so much light around, like it was the shock of the light can be evil and dark as fuck. You know, for some reason that shocked me, because it was all like this divine light and it's holy and sacred, and suddenly it's hell and it's the same light, and that's what shocked me.
Just the
absolutely.
polarization of
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And it had been that as well on that trip. It had been the light, and then
Yeah, I suppose Satan was an angel, wasn't he? And
just like that, in a way.
yeah.
And then, like the following morning, all gone. Just an electrical charge in the arm.
And they do say that the negative NDs, well, Yvonne Castle was saying that, and her experience were to do with fear and not wanting the light, or, you know, fear-based. So, yeah, don't be afraid when you're dying, or pray, or like, but yeah, makes sense to me somehow. But it doesn't answer it though. It doesn't maybe makes
Answer.
sense. Why these things, you know, like it is mind-blowing. It is actually, because you sort of think, oh, well, it's Christian or whatever, the Buddhist hells, all the hells of, you sort of think, what a load of piffle, like, and then you're in it, and it's, whoa.
I've read a lot of Meher Baba, and there's some of his stuff where he touches on this. Yeah.
All right, okay, I haven't read.
Yeah.
So maybe I should read it. It might be interesting.
Yeah. You're just, you know, sort of saying that everything is everything.
right, okay,
Yeah,
right.
He's going that way with it, at the highest of the high to the lowest of the low, and he's going into that then, and yeah, he talks a lot about it.
Yeah. Who's going to go home and have nightmares?
Yeah.
Well, of course, yeah, because of course that can all. Yeah, exactly, yeah. But that, you know, like I was telling you last week, that's been the life of the person there. That's how it was when I was a kid, under the sheets. That was how it was under the sheets.
Oh, you stayed under the sheets?
Waiting for the demons to come.
Oh, you did as a kid, like?
Oh God, yeah.
Literally?
Oh fuck yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had something similar, but not as.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say waiting for the demons, but I was under the sheets to protect myself.
I wrote about this, and I was in bed one night, and it all just this writing just came up. There was a little boy, pure innocence, and he separated himself from the whole, and he hid from the monsters every night under the sheets. And it all just came out. I've written this.
Oh, did this recently? Automatic
A
writing?
few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, a few years ago. And it's just how it was.
Automatic writing then?
I guess so.
Okay.
I was just in bed. It's like, oh, here it comes. Well, here it comes. Well, yeah, and I've got a lot of stuff like that I've done. Just up it comes. And it's just all written. It's almost like, oh yeah, just cross that T, dot that, done.
That's Kundalini as well. The automatic writing stuff that goes with the psychic experiences.
And it's beautiful. It's like a poem that's come up, and it's beautiful. But it's like that, saying hiding from the demons and all of it buried, all of it's been buried, you know, with layers and layers and layers. And,
oh yeah.
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 Anyway, we don't talk about nightmares anymore.
You don't get nightmares, right?
We don't just talk about them.
To go dwell on this any longer.
Yeah. Well, it seems that if you think of light or pray, it's like it does seem to get people out of those situations. There is whatever it is, even done superficially, I think. Like, I don't know, but yeah, it's worth. If you remember, that's the thing. Do you remember? And
Well, remember to pray.
yeah, because you know when you're in a dream, you don't always sort of think of the sensible thing to do. Even in a lucid dream, you sort of think, damn, why didn't I say something or do something different, or
isn't the waking up in itself the release of the dreamlike suffering, you know, kind of it waking up from the dream. I mean, not in a non-dual sense or whatever. You know, when you just wake up and
from a night time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but suffering can arise. Is that what you're saying? Like no suffering, or like?
No, I just said like a release of the nightmarish experience sort of thing.
Yeah, some people see it like that. There's some schools of thought see nightmares as a kind of catharsis, don't they? But I know Pete Walker sees it as an emotional flashback. You're just playing out during sleep because your body states. I mean, if I have bliss in my body, I'll have blissful dreams, you know.
I've very few nightmares. I really can't remember having any. I wouldn't mind having one or two because it's quite that sounds quite interesting. I don't generally tend to remember my dreams anyway, so maybe who knows, could be doing it every night and just don't remember it. But
maybe you're not interested enough. You know, there's something, because when you start going to therapy, you start to remember your dreams. Like there's something very often because someone's taken an interest in them. And
I don't tend to remember mine much. Yeah.
Do you not? Have you never or?
No, I have. I just I don't really keep track of them. I'd like to. Like lucid dreaming, you're not really experienced.
I'm afraid we've got to go.
Okay.
No matter how interesting this is, we've got to the time.
Thanks for coming.
Sleep well of it. Nice.
Sorry about that.
As you say, time flies like an arrow, but
don't eat too much cheese.
It didn't really happen. That's you okay.
Like a banana.
Nothing happens. Nothing ever did happen. Nothing ever will.
Right. Thanks everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks everybody being here. It's good stuff.
Thanks for getting us in.
Take care.
Right. Right. You can shut the door on the way out.
Right.
So what about now, Hamish? Is it still same sort of intensity when it's going on?
Yeah. Physically.
Yeah.
Physically. The beginning was very psychedelic, I would say. Very shifting.
Cheers.
Thank you. See you again.
See you.
See you again.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, very kind of trippy. That's how I describe it. Very kind of like, what is going on here, you know? And still now, like walking to work was a real like immersion, and like I'm just staring at the trees, kind of like just a lot of staring. But the physical aspect of it was there right from the day one. Just I knew I was going to get spontaneous. I'd read about people once I started getting movements. I read about people doing spontaneous yoga and back bends and things like that. I was like, I just know that's going to happen to me because I could feel the energy was so strong, and the first time the energy came through my body, it was a real epileptic kind of like thing like that, and this thing was going around in my mind, and it was just going, I'm not going to shut up about this, I'm not going to shut up about this, I'm not going to shut up about this, I'm not going to shut up. So that's kind of why I'm here, I suppose. There's this passion to just talk about it, this instinct, like I've got to talk about this, you know. I was just so extreme, and now the kriya, if anything, they've intensified. There's been sometimes they're very zen-like and quite calm, and then other times I've got some footage of it going crazy where I'm just shouting and it's jumping into a back bend and writhing around, you know. And almost I'm starting to wonder if things, you know, there's a lot of witches that were burned to the stake because they were seen as crazy, and there's these things like, you know, the silent witch trials in America. You know, if people are shaking and, you know, people are, it looks like there's something really wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I've got loads of footage of me looking like there's something really wrong with me. But if anything, they've just changed in nature. They've become kind of more intense, but at the moment they've become very, like, it will hold, the energy will just hold my breath, and then the movement will be really sudden, it will just hold that. another one will be really sudden. Whereas before it was kind of like, yeah. And it's just it's really fascinating to try and figure out what it's doing. For a long time I was having this kind of something, my hands would go behind my head, I hasn't done this for a while, behind my head, and they'd come and they'd do that. And if they were in line, then it would go and work on something else or swab at my head or do some strange thing. If they were slightly out of line, then this arm would try and find the root of the misalignment and then just pull the shoulder, and then they'd go back again, and then they're in line. And that went on for ages, just find like, why is this not in line? And then it would just find the...
I've noticed that sort of stuff, just that 1,000 movement adjustment to just go, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think there's something going on with the hemispheres balancing in the brain or something. They call Kundalini energy divine feminine energy, and certainly when this happened, I was working in a nursery, I was coming to terms with how maternal I actually am, and kind of accepting that I'm really quite feminine in a lot of ways. I don't know if that instigated the transformation, but there's certainly, like, it made sense to me that it's a feminine, why people say that, you know.
Hamish, you've always been a physical sort of person.
Yes.
Embodied rather than thinking.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Well, lots of unstoppable thoughts, crazy thoughts, things like that. But in terms of, I've never been a sit still and meditate kind of, football, running, and very active. Yeah.
And emotional.
Yeah, very emotional. Yeah.
Are you more in touch with your emotions now, would you say, or does it not?
Yeah, I think so. But less repressed.
Okay.
Less likely to just let things come in. But I've always been kind of in touch with them. Like I would always had no problem with crying. I just thought of that as a cathartic release. Yeah.
It is just interesting because there's nothing in the literature about ongoing kriyas, so it's
Is
something.
there not?
There's something new.
Well, yeah.
So it's fascinating.
I thought there can be ongoing for.
I haven't heard of it. I mean, maybe I haven't read that many books, but it's an unusual.
I don't think it can be a thing of books, though. It strikes me. Do you know?
Well,
is that element of it just?
Well, I'm talking about like researchers.
I know, but yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But if there's a comparison, then I think there could be a danger in that, looking or trying to come, why hasn't this quite happened to me or something? I think maybe, who knows, but each individual kind of physiology will manifest it in a different way.
Yeah, no, but I'm just talking about the statistics on what happens. Like it's just It's just interesting that there can be something different, like outside of that, because that's I know what you're saying, but it's unknown. I'm not trying to put it in a box because I think the books don't make any sense to me. As in, the way it was portrayed as a route to awakening. This energy goes through the chakras and does this and does that, and then you awaken, and that's it. I mean, that's the way it was originally put, and it's. Can happen post-awakening, and so it's not. I don't get anything out of the literature in terms of the sense made of this, except for the fact that yes, it can resolve psychological stuff, and yes, it can change the physical, which is bizarre. It's bizarre, but I don't think there's been so much done on that. But J.J. Semple's one of the speakers on Kundalini, and he had that, like, his body completely changed and stuff, like, and I'm not here to. I used to be really open-minded, and then the non-dual shift, I was actually quite narrow-minded, and now I'm quite open-minded. Do you know the way non-duality, it kind of shuts you down a bit as well to think, and this opens your curiosity, as you were saying, because it's like you're childlike and...
Yeah, well, I don't think they're incompatible, this and non-duality, it's just a fascinating aspect of the process, just absolutely bewildering.
There can be a sort of straitjacket quality to non-duality sometimes. I know what you're saying.
Definitely.
In that sense, yeah.
Yeah, because I was hypnotised into thinking this isn't important when stuff was happening to me, and talking about it like, like that, and now it's like, fuck off with that. But I think for me it's like an ongoing thing, like being free from the conditioning, because it's just your whole life seems like another. you get into all these cul-de-sacs of thinking about everything, like, and life just goes in that way, and so it's, you know, you've got to be, you don't have to be vigilant, but you know what I mean, it's like, just, I don't know, so much shuts you down, and you think non-duality is liberation, is it really, like, you know, the non-dual experiences, but like, there is something in the meeting, like, in every meeting, and isn't there, like, it's just, you know, our tendency to mimic as well, to fit our experience in with somebody else's. And you can't do this with Kundalini, like you say, it's so idiosyncratic. And
it's true.
Yeah, you take on the language of it, and then it gets sort of caught in this the thinker.
Yeah.
And then then there's a thinker's version of non-duality, which is, you know, nihilism or whatever, or whatever it happens to be, or no, I'm non-dual now. I'm like, whoa. It's so silly. It's just, it is what it is, right? It's nothing. Why bother with judging or being any of it? I mean, who cares? Who cares?
And it's the end of authority, you know, and that takes a while to kick in. That was one of the latest things that happened. Stop, you know, to stop saying that person knows something I don't. They're special because they're sitting in a big chair, you know.
Exactly.
The end of that's such a relief.
Yeah,
it's kind of a shock as well. It's like, oh, nobody knows. Like, oh. It's like, oh, cool.
No one's got a clue.
Yeah. And I remember even Terence McKenna talking about that. Terence McKenna was a big psychedelic promoter, and back in the 80s and 90s, and
great voice.
Great poet, great voice. Could listen to him for forever.
Yeah.
But he used to say that, you know, nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic. Still listen to him. Yeah.
So can you say something about kriyas, Kundalini awakening, and non-dual awakening? Either your experiences, because kriyas are spontaneous shaking, and Kundalini awakening would be much more of that.
Kundalini awakening Kundalini awakening creates the kriyas. So the Kundalini awakening is the energy that's said to lie dormant at the base of your spine, and it's when the child is in the womb. This is what the literature says. When the literature says when the child is in the womb, it's responsible for just building the baby's body and the fingers, and it's like life force energy, and that is what it feels like when it's kind of rearranging your body. It just feels like you're in a womb a little bit and you're still growing. It's kind of weird growth spurt that's happening midlife. But so then the baby's born, and then for some reason this energy is no longer needed for the survival, and it kind of, I think it's responsible for maintaining the body in some sort of homeostasis, but then in some individuals it gets released, and it can be through just sudden shock or a non-dual awakening, seemingly, or it can accompany a non-dual awakening, or a supreme moment of passion as well, and that's when dance and things come into that, like that passion, I think, can unlock this energy somehow. I don't know how, but so once the energy is unlocked, it just in the literature it comes up and awakens all the chakras, and that's kind of been my experience. I don't think it's as organized as that. It seems to go all over the place, to be honest, and as it's traveling around the body, your body, you realize, is full of knots. It's the first thing you realize, and it just bumps up against the knots. The energy bumps up against the knots. It's trying to get through the whole of it's trying to make its way through the whole system, and I think ultimately it just ends up going around the system. But as it encounters a knot, you'll just get this shaking thing going on, and this is when then you start to notice how intelligent this thing is, or how intelligent the body is, because the way it deals with knots, it's like, okay, I can't do it that way, but I'll go around there and do something else, and sometimes it does very terrifying things as well, you know, it tests you, and stops your breathing and things like that. The one thing that always scared me was this movement whereby it would, I was standing up one time, and the kriya took me to the floor, and it put the crown of my head on the floor, and it started bending me like that, so that my neck, and that was really quite frightening, and it was trying to get rid of these knots in the neck. And that was the only movement where I'd do it for a bit, and then I was like, this is too much, I feel like it's going to break my neck. And I know it wasn't going to, I know it knew exactly what it was doing. But that was the only one where I was like, oh, this is a bit too fast, do it a slower way, you know, so then I'd sit up and just get shoulder crunching for months on end, you know, whereas probably I could have gotten rid of a lot of knots very quickly. But there's an element of trust that really comes into it, and I've had a few things like that. What was the other one? Oh yeah, there's loads of stuff going on with my teeth, and at one point he just put my thumb in my mouth and bit down on my thumb really hard. And again, the instinct is to go, no, that's what you're doing. You know, it's gone. This evil force is trying to kill me, which is a very valid response when this kind of, and that goes back to madness and what we were talking about earlier. You know, that the feeling of, is this benevolent or is something, am I possessed? The feeling of being possessed is quite real. And so I've had moments where I put my phone out and it bit down really hard, and I took my thumb out and I had this indentation, but I let it do it because I was just normally doing something, and then my teeth just bit on each other really hard and carried on biting. And when I thought there's no more bite, it was just more pressure, and it was just like, and it was just testing me. It was telling me that, like, okay, I'm going to do something now. I'm going to bite down really hard. It's fine, you can withstand it, and then something like that will come about. So it tends to I get little premonition. It gives me a little indication. The same with the utensils on the bed sheets. It'll just something, or I'll see something. It'll just give me an indication of what's about to happen next. That's very common. Once I saw a accelerator pad that just came up and just went like on a car, and I was just like, okay, we're going to ramp this up a little bit now, and then I started getting more cream and things like that.
There's other experiences as well. Like there's inner light, there's inner sounds, and then, you know, all the psychic stuff. There's inspired creativity, there's spontaneous orgasms, you know, and all the other experiences. So, but they always have an energetic component to them, whether it's just inner light or energy moving. It's NDs are linked to it now. Like they seem to have Kundalini around them as well, a bit like awakening. So it's all sorts of experiences are kind of linked to it, like, which I say, so many people have some experience of something or other, like, especially with the death of a loved one, or you know, or
So what about Kundalini yoga? Would you recommend that?
I've never done it. I don't know anything about it. To me, I definitely recommend yoga. I don't know whether Kundalini yoga would be more effective than regular yoga. No, but one thing I was going to mention, that the origins of yoga are very clear for me to be Kundalini, or the Kundalini origin, because it will just put you, you know, in when I was first getting Kriya. Now it just doesn't stop and it goes crazy. But at the beginning, a session would end by putting my hand on my stomach and one on my, you know, and like, oh, these movements came from Kundalini. It wasn't someone who thought, oh, I think it would be good to stretch like this. Someone had this happen to them, and then they wrote down the movements and said that this is a good thing to do. But your body is doing it spontaneously. And I've had the ones where my leg will come up like that and it will just do that thing. So like, and you're just watching all this stuff going, I'm doing yoga out of nowhere. So very surreal, but yeah, to me, I think that's the origins of yoga. I think that's where all these things came from. And Kundalini is in the literature, you know, it's in the Hinduism and ancient Egypt and the symbolism. And so it's all over the place. And then you start, when this energy started ramping up, I started getting interest in the occult and things like that, and magic, because you realise that all these magicians and people like that had Kundalini energy, and so, you know, and magic is just like manifestation or law of attraction and things like that, and, you know, people take it very seriously and doing all these rituals, but there's a Kundalini element to that, and a lot of these occult writings are trying to keep the information alive, because obviously it's been lost since the days where, like, I think in ancient Egypt this became very, very prominent as a thing, and then they were invaded by nearby countries because their weapons were less good, and they all kind of faded away. But I think they had a lot of third eye activity, and then it atrophied later on down the generations and things. So a lot of occult phenomena came into my awareness, and I bought some books on magic, so I thought that's really interesting, but I'm just too lazy, and I realised that with magic, you have to study it like anything else. It's like you have to study, you have to sit down, and, and I was like, you know, to do it properly anyway.
Ace of Spades.
Yeah. I mean, I have an interest in tarot and things like that, but yeah, just as a layman, you know.
Sometimes I'm a little bit torn between uncompromising non-duality, which I like a lot, and sometimes I can watch something and sort of either feel the resistance to what's being said, or feel something changing. And then there's a lot of other stuff, yourselves included, that the uncompromising people would say, nope, you don't need to do anything whatsoever. There's nothing you can do, because that comes under seeking.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I listen to a bit of everyone, but I tend to favour the radical message because that's what I listen to. That definitely, it's so harsh and it can really pull the rug from under your feet. It's really effective, but it doesn't mean it's the only thing you could listen to or find interesting, or, you know, it really is. The Kundalini, I don't think Kundalini is in conflict with radical non-duality. It's just part of a potential part of the phenomena. And it's like anything, you know, once you've had a shift, you know, if you're into fast cars and things like that, we could just say, oh, it's not really a car, it's just emptiness being a car, you know. Yeah, but look at the rev on it, you know, it's still exciting, it's still cool, it's still, you know, why not talk about it, you know what I mean? It's just the fact that it's not.
Yeah, 'cause there's no one here saying there's something you can do, like even to spark off Kundalini, not really. I mean, it's still like, you know, 100 people do pranayama or something, the breathing exercises, maybe one of them will have some Kundalini. I mean, there's no, sometimes things, it seems like that caused it, but again, you don't know. Like, I mean, transmission, in some cases it seems like that. It seemed like that here, to be honest, in some ways, like, but who knows? But maybe it's kind of more interesting in a way after awakening, because there's that groundedness there, and it's
right,
you know, and it reopens your curiosity.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's just a genuine curiosity for the phenomena as it is. You know.
I was just about to say that life can be very synchronistic. I was just about to say that when one awakens, it's probably a little bit different than the struggle that a separate individual that's been seeking for a long time can go through. Just guessing, but upon a full awakening, it can sort of give things a completely different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but your curiosity kind of, I think after awakening, is sort of, I wasn't really interested in anything, but this stuff sparked off curiosity, like, as in, you know, after that, like near-death experiences do that. There's an intellectual curiosity tends to emerge from after that. You know, and that can be combined with awakening too. So all these things there's connections, like you can have a non-dual awakening without any Kundalini being realised or whatever, but seems to be the same intensity of energy in a way, like, I think, certainly around the event of, if there is an event, because for you, I think your experience of incremental kind of things are just falling away and it's more and more clear, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, I can't say there's been an end point. There was an obvious, there's no one here. But then it sort of all closed up. And it's just, I mean, there's, like I said, there's obviously is no one here,
right?
But there's still this tension in the body that's sort of loosening up.
But
I would say on the if there's a seeker there, it'll look anywhere, right? So the seeker might end up on non-duality because he thinks that's the ultimate truth. This is how it was for me. But if the seekers finds out that watching Black Mirror is going to get you enlightened, it'll do that too. It'll just do whatever it believes is going to get it there. And then after, when you're not wanting it to be any different, then you still might be turning up at a non-duality meeting, and you still might be watching Black Mirror.
Right.
Yeah, but it's like you still go and drive a car. Oh, what's the... It doesn't matter what's happening, whatever's happening, matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But before that, it's like the conviction that something's going to
better
get you
than
somewhere.
something else.
Something's going to get you somewhere.
Yeah. That's wrong. That's right. Yeah.
But do you think that that constriction, does that necessarily have to go for you? Because you could have trauma in the body and be awake. Obviously, you know that, don't you? Like. Yeah, and
there is trauma still comes up here, but it's like...
It's not obscuring it?
It's sort of, so what?
Okay, alright, cool.
It's
okay.
sort of that, so what?
Okay.
It's got nothing to grip on.
It's...
Because it could blur it for you, do you know? Like you think, oh my god,
well, maybe that's going on as well. Maybe.
Alright. Because I think I've come across that before, like... Because you sort of think it's got to be a certain way, and no, whatever.
But there's no, there doesn't seem to be any looking for it to be any different than the way it is.
Brilliant. Okay.
Right. So
yeah.
even if it seems really bad.
Right.
Bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. But even the looking is no problem if that arises, you know. So what?
Yeah.
It's just
Because that can be noticed too sometimes.
Yeah.
Just energetically, that can be, oh look, sort of, oh there's that grasp track, but it's not really grasping, and it's just like, it's just kind of like that.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And it's just energetic. It's just it's not nothing solid about that even.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's not like boom, oh it's all over, in that sense. But then it is too.
Yeah. Okay.
because it doesn't matter how it is.
Yeah. Okay. That
Doesn't
sounds
matter.
about right.
It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're not trying to fit it in anywhere.
No. Yeah. So even that. Oh, it can't be it because there's still tension has gone.
Oh, cool.
If you.
Yeah.
It's like. Well,
the miracle of tension, you know.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this, you know?
It's
miracle of anything, really. I see it as, you know. Yeah. This is it, you know.
Yeah, this is.
I think, what the fuck is this, you know?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't say.
No.
Did it take a while for you to integrate yours, or realise that it was all over? Or not?
I don't know, really. Yeah, because I've got a really terrible memory around it, but well, it's ongoing.
Do you think because of the awakening, the memory was difficult to remember it, or?
I've just got a really bad memory anyway.
Oh right, okay, fair enough, okay.
But yeah, I did try to put it into words or whatever, but it's just not a good vehicle, are they really? And but then I these days actually, as you say, there is like a love still around this subject or whatever. Not that I need to have anything, from it, but also in that kind of, when I listen to non-duality stuff going on, there's a real kind of frustration with how it's kind of dealt with as well, because I just feel like if I was personally, if I was to try to talk around it, anything would be discussed, kind of just have a chat, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Nothing is...
Nothing off topic or
Yeah.
denied, yeah.
Drop all the language,
That's sort of what I was saying about, I might be watching this show, but I might be watching just Coronation Street.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah. I know that language is trying to... It's a tool, isn't it, I suppose, and it's trying to help from the psychological, perhaps, point of view. But
it does help you kind of own it in a way.
It's like a massive distraction as well, is it? In of itself.
Yeah, because then it reifies things, and then people get into trouble with trying to fit it in, don't they?
Yeah.
Or even yourself, like reading about it. But I think it's good to be able to express it, because otherwise you're stuck.
There's nothing wrong with it, and nothing right with it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's good, because if you've got any doubts there, I think it's a way to go, because it's one way of just sort of, I don't know, accepting it and coming to terms with it, rather than I don't think you really come into your own authority until you've kind of can own that, in a sense. Like, it's the wrong word, like, isn't it? But all these words are dodgy, but you know what I mean? Just like, there's a shift happened, even though it happened to no one.
The endeavour in itself is a loving endeavour, isn't it? A sharing, a trying to help.
Yeah.
And the receiving, kind of the communion of the...
it's kind of nice hanging out in that environment, like, for sure, like what you were saying, that there seems to be an energy to that and an intimacy in it that's conducive to that kind of state, if you like, which is a non-state, but...
Kind of life diggers coming together, everyone's, life digger. But you
Well,
know what I mean. Or whatever you want to call it, yeah. But it's equally like two guys just about to have a fight, isn't it? Do you know, so...
What way? What do you mean?
Well, it's just what's going on. You know,
yeah,
it
okay,
is.
yeah,
It
sure.
is, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anything, you know, yeah.
Mm.
There's no judgment or no, you know, better or worse.
There's no shock in anything, is there? Saying that though, you might find something that is a shock.
It probably would, yeah. Say if someone like took a swing at me, then there'd be a, you know.
The
Hopefully
body
a
would,
reaction,
but
Yeah.
but the body might go into shock. But there's something about like that sort of flattening of all experience in the sense that there's part of you just isn't shocked. Like, I guess that's the way bit as well. Like, it's nothing. I don't know. Nothing really moves you in the same way. Like, I find like. So everything's the same, but yeah, shock occurs, but it's not shocking, you know, kind of thing, something like that. Like,
Yeah, I find that too.
oh, do you? Okay.
The after awakening, something's happened where thoughts don't matter so much,
Mm-hmm.
and the person doesn't matter so much, and life is happening and ongoing and whatever. Yeah, that's being here is good because there's understanding. And people in a similar boat, but yeah, nothing's shocking, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing surprising.
You still use that language, but it just doesn't have quite the same meaning. Like a lot of words, they just don't hold the same meaning anymore.
Language is an interesting one. Language here is still used to describe something, but I know when I'm speaking to the person, they may accept it in a certain way,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have the same meaning as
Yeah, that can be difficult sometimes, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today I texted somebody and said I'm in a place of despair and sadness, and then I asked myself, but am I?
Oh, right.
I am and I'm not.
Yeah, you are and you're not, yeah.
It certainly didn't feel like real despair and real sadness of the type I might have felt a decade ago or
Oh, yeah.
in early childhood or whatever.
Yeah, that stuff can arise for sure. Yeah, and it's not, crisis, it's not a crisis, and it is. And it's a funny thing that, the ordinariness of a crisis.
Yeah. And people can be taken aback by the relative calm, the lack of panic.
Yeah.
If there's something going on that is very challenging to people, I can deal with it.
Yeah.
And people can be wondering whether I'm cold or something.
Yeah.
Or if you're not, you have a lot of guilt over something. It's like people, I get a lot of that, you know, but you should be feeling bad.
They expect you to be.
Yeah, and then it gets weird. It's
yeah,
like, wait, you want me to feel bad?
I'll feel bad if you want.
Yeah, if it's going to help.
And then you have to kind of like kind of project that onto yourself just to make them feel a little bit better.
That's
kind of
right.
The emphatic kind of human reaction, isn't it?
It's so funny how it's just the opposite of how it's like seen from that person as well, you know, because it can sound very cold.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's ain't cold at all.
Oh, yeah, it's not, it's the opposite. Yeah. It sometimes sounds so dry and then,
yes,
you know,
yeah,
speaking about it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I suppose, it's juicy, isn't it? It's just,
Yes.
Yeah, for me the biggest thing that's come to an end is the alone, the victim, the separate person. I suppose to a large degree the searching and the seeking, all of that's
fading.
And it's kind of replaced with acceptance and love and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. But which, you know, distrust can arise in that too.
Mm.
You know, but yeah, in a sense, it's beyond all that. Like, because it's beyond the opposites. It's a deeper kind of trust, isn't it? It's like.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't necessarily mean trusting or mistrusting someone.
Yeah, no, I know,
meant trust
but I'm
that
just saying.
I'm in a reasonable place. So.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's what I was just saying that to sort of clarify, because it's just, you know, that way we sort of ordinarily think in opposites, and it's just, it isn't part of that, is it? It's beyond that.
Hamish, do you know of somebody called Billy Doyle or
No, never heard of him.
Eric Barre, Jean Klein?
Billy
Okay.
Doyle, yeah, Billy Doyle.
Yeah, it's I'll call it non-dual yoga. It's
Oh.
specifically a yoga, very different to normal yoga,
Okay.
where spaciousness arises in the body.
Okay.
The poses are very gentle, lying down.
Uh-huh.
An expansion takes place
Cool.
of what is contained
Yeah.
to who we are. So I've been doing that for a while.
Oh,
Didn't
sweet.
he do classes up at Archway?
Yes, some time
Do
ago.
you go to the
And
classes there?
now, sorry?
Do you go to the classes there?
I attend his classes twice a week and his retreats sometimes, online classes,
Yeah.
and people do it from all over the world.
Mm.
He's very popular,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's clearly had a huge awakening because he's written books and
Yeah.
poetry books and
Mm.
Ellen Emmett does that as well, Rupert Sparrow's wife. I don't know if she still does it, but I know she was doing that. And it's one of her specialties. She's away, go sleep, but just
What was your guy's name again?
Jean Klein has now passed away,
Okay.
but two people, and I forget who he must have been under, so to
Right.
speak. And then
Christian
from
Menon.
the
Christian Menon.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then Eric Barre is French, but comes over here sometimes.
Okay.
And Billy Doyle
Billy Doyle.
is
Okay.
here, not far away. He lives
Cool.
not far away.
Cool.
But yeah, his yoga is something else. And the last time I was in a retreat type environment, as soon as I left, everything was alive.
Oh wow.
yeah.
I just left, and it was a challenge to get home because everything was so alive. And it's energetic.
Yeah.
It isn't something that's happened
Yeah.
due to any sort of pose or anything. It's a
Cool.
left. Yeah. Doing some kriyas. No, you've seen it.
Oh god.
Yeah, you got to.
Does anybody want the window open?
Oh,
It's quite hot, isn't it?
Jeez.
Yeah.
You do.
Shall I put that
Yeah.
on?
There's only 10 minutes left, but
Oh,
might as
might as
well
well
cool
cool
down, I
down.
suppose. Why not? Like,
You mentioned John Aston is coming next week.
yeah.
Yeah, how long have you known about him?
John Aston.
Yeah.
For a few months, I've known. Yeah, I think Walter Driscoll interviewed him, so I've known him through that. Yeah, I think so. He's non-dual speaker. He's coming next Friday.
Here.
I'm advertising him again next Friday. Yeah, here to the Philadelphia Association of Hampstead. Yeah, and Saturday he's doing 10 to 4, and then he's doing a Bristol meeting on
Alright.
Monday the 10th as well. So I think he's got quite a following in LA.
Do you like him?
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah, I mean, with some of his stuff, and yeah, worth checking out.
Is it same time, same place? Next week?
So, so I think it's downstairs. Well, it's downstairs. I know it's downstairs. I know it's big. Yeah, so it'll be in the big room downstairs. So 7 to 9 Friday,
Okay.
I think, and then Saturday. I think there's going to be a long lunch on the side. I don't know. Maybe there's not, but that's what I heard. But
And where's the Saturday one?
here as well, so in the same room.
What's the time? What's the window on the Saturday? The time? Did you say?
It's 10 to 4. I think he's taking a couple of hours for lunch, but I don't know. I think everybody's going somewhere. But that wasn't originally. He might change the plans for that. So
What's his name? Sorry.
John Aston.
John Aston.
Yeah. So yeah.
Is there details on your website or something of events that
You can check his website out. So it's johnaston.com.
John Aston?
Yeah, to check out the Bristol one because I don't know where that's held. So yeah, he was over here before, but I think it was many years ago, and Brett was organising it. So this is kind of one-off thing, but
Is it pay on the door as well next week?
I think so. I mean, I'm sure you can, and
Right.
it doesn't turn anyone away anyway. So yeah, I'm sure. I wouldn't worry. You just show up, really. Yeah, just money, isn't it? Like so. So, yeah, I'm not sure if, yeah, might be there on the Friday.
Is there any other forthcoming events, speakers that you wanted to tell us about? I think you've got Walter Driscoll, or is that
yeah,
online?
on my next, well, it's on my meetup, then, so that's an online one, and so when's that, I don't know, and then I'm doing my own, I think, on the 14th of July, back here again, and I'm sure we'll probably be doing more, and we'll be messing about with the camera around his LinkedIn live.
Yeah, sure.
Just like,
I watched one of your what in the park or whatever.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
I did, yeah.
Yeah, there were nice ones in the
I
park.
quite like
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
watched something as well, yeah.
Cool.
Watched 2 of them.
Yeah, most of the ones on my channel are all just me on the floor going through movements, so it's nice to get some footage outside in the sunshine.
and your channel is...
It's called Kundalini and Non-Duality altogether. That's
There's
it.
lots of them.
And it's just it's mainly kriya, because I think that's what people find the most interesting, and then there's bits of me talking to camera as well, talking about despair and liberation and just all what I've been talking about tonight, I suppose.
Is it Kundalini and Non-Duality?
Kundalini and Non-Duality. Yeah.
.com?
No, it's just on YouTube, so it's just type in that, it should come up, I think.
And there's a Walter Driscoll interviews.
There's also an interview by Walter on that channel, or you can find out on Walter's channel. And if you don't find my YouTube channel, I think if you find Dawn, then you'll find our interviews, and that will probably lead you to.
That's fine.
There's been some laughter kriyas after those videos.
Yeah,
Quite
they become quite comical sometimes.
funny.
Have you, the kids? What have you seen kids witnessing when you know, going into it or whatever? I imagine their kids would be pretty cool with it. Huh?
Work, do you know what? At the beginning, I mean, it usually happens when I'm relaxed, but
Yeah.
I did get it at work a few times. Like sometimes I'm just sitting with the kids and we'll be watching something on a laptop, and I'll just allow myself to kind of do that. And sometimes I had this couple of kids like staring at me, but they don't know what's going on, so they just think I'm being silly, and I'm silly quite a lot, you know. So I'll just be sitting there doing that. And now I've even started to do it, you know, when there's adults around, and I don't know. Obviously not dramatic stuff, but a lot of the day when I'm sitting around and just sort of doing that, cracking and crunching. I just can't help it really. It just feels like that sort of needs to happen. So if I'm relaxed enough, I've had them in the street as well. I'm walking around, I'm just kind of like, you know, looking like an absolute nutter. But I kind of think, well, I'm in London, I'm a nutter, especially in certain areas. You know, it's like no one's even looking. You know, you go to like Camden or somewhere, no one's going to blink and look twice. Probably just think I've got Tourette's or.
And maybe being an actor is a good cover too.
Yeah. I'm quite wild anyway. I don't have a lot of self-consciousness, even pre-awakening. So I find it quite funny.
We've got about 3 minutes left. The Shakti Pat.
That's everything. Hold my ears, blessed be you, royal. I don't know if that worked. I don't know.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we were joking the other day about, because this energy seems to be fixing my teeth with great intent, and I just wonder if I could do Shakti Pat or something like that, I could just become some Shakti dentist and people just go and see me. Because personally I'm saving a lot of money on the NHS, you know, and so I'm just figured that people...
Kundalini orthodontics.
Kundalini.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, open your mouth, please.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple, I think, from, I don't know where they live, Switzerland. They do something called divine straightening, where an energy is transmitted to the spine. I've had it.
Yeah.
And the spine is aligned after that.
Yeah, interesting.
Energetic.
Yeah, interesting.
Alexander Toscar
Yeah.
visiting. It's a couple, they come over to London
Yeah.
every so often.
Yeah, my spine's going through a lot of straightening at the moment. That's another thing you realise, that how
Did
crooked.
you find a lot is stored here for you?
Yeah, all of it,
Yeah.
all of it. Shoulders and neck, the whole, just a month just going crack, 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 crick, crick, you know, and this kind of thing. You to the point where you think it must be over soon, and then it just keeps going. And now it's going right up into the bottom of my skull, whatever you call that bit. And it's just like crunching up against there, very intently.
It's very inspirational what you're going through.
Oh, good.
Envious is the wrong word. Yeah, it's inspirational.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, kind of
Stop.
done. Is any
Right.
like? Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Really,
Yeah, so great. Yeah.
it was enjoyable
Great.
doing this, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
different.
I didn't know if anyone's going to turn up or not.
Oh.